A close-up Benjamin's father promises, and shortly thereafter the mother expires. He approaches the crib and the attending nurse tries to warn him, but he cries out in horror when he lifts the blanket and sees his son for the first time. He then grabs the baby and tears out of the door. He runs madly into the street with the baby crying wildly and eventually stops at the banks of the river. He contemplates throwing the baby into the river when a policeman stops him and chases him. Benjamin's father frantically runs away and eventually stops at the porch of a large house. He hears people inside the house and then impulsively places his baby on the steps of the house and leaves whatever money he has with the baby. Within seconds, a young black couple come out of the house. They are flirting with each other, completely unaware of the baby. They begin to descend the stairs and one of them almost trips on the baby. The woman, Queenie, picks up the baby and we see that Benjamin looks like an octogenarian infant. Despite the protests of her husband, she decides to take the baby in. She brings the baby into the house and puts him in the top drawer of her dresser. When the doctor examines Benjamin, he tells her that the baby suffers from arthritis, is nearly blind from cataracts, and has osteoporosis. No one expects the baby to survive long. Unable to have a child of her own, Queenie decides that Benjamin is a child of God and takes on the responsibility of raising him. She names him Benjamin and introduces him to the elderly tenants of the house as her sister's child. The elderly tenants seem to be unfazed by Benjamin's unusual appearance. One elderly woman even remarks that he looks just like her ex-husband. Over the next few years, we see Benjamin spend his early years as a short, frail, bald elderly man with glasses when in fact, he is only 5 years old. He calls Queenie Mama and his mannerisms and impulses are very childlike. Although he is fully grown in size, Queenie still bathes him and scolds him like a child when he tries to wander off. He begins to learn to read but cannot walk and is confined to a wheelchair. Then one day, Queenie takes him to an evangelical healer. After healing Queenie's infertility, he commands Benjamin to walk during a dramatic healing. After Benjamin stumbles and takes his first steps, the preacher suddenly drops to the floor and dies. Benjamin progresses physically, being able to walk with the help of crutches. He soon befriends a charming pygmy man who takes Benjamin into town, and they seem to connect over their uniqueness. When the pygmy leaves Benjamin to visit a prostitute, Benjamin misses the last streetcar and must walk home on his crutches. Although Queenie greets him with a harsh scolding, Benjamin remembers his first taste of freedom as one of the best days of his life. Queenie throws a party at the retirement home for visitors, and Benjamin, now able to walk without crutches, soon meets the granddaughter of one of the tenants. She's a striking red-haired girl with blue eyes named Daisy. Benjamin develops an instant boyish crush on her even though he appears to be an elderly man. In his diary, Benjamin remembers this as the day he fell in love with Daisy. During the party, Queenie announces that she's pregnant and Benjamin feels slightly jealous. Benjamin and Daisy quickly form a bond. They curl up with Daisy's grandmother as she reads them children's stories. Daisy is quick to realize that Benjamin is no ordinary elderly man because of his childlike ways. They spend a lot of time together and sneak off one night to talk but are caught by Daisy's grandmother, who accuses Benjamin of inappropriate motives. Queenie tells Benjamin that he is no ordinary child, that he is a man-child, and that people will misunderstand him. When Benjamin returns to his room, his elderly roommate talks about how he was struck by lightning 7 times. Throughout the course of the film, the random circumstances in which he was struck by lightning are revealed for laughs. Benjamin begins to grow physically and can bathe himself now and seems to be going through puberty even though he still looks elderly. He gains muscle tone and his teeth look healthier. While getting his hair cut by an elderly woman at Queenie's house, he remarks that with every day he feels he is growing younger. The woman replies that it must be sad to grow younger and watch the people you love die before you. While Benjamin reflects on this remark, the woman adds that if we didn't lose the people that we love, we wouldn't know how important they are to us. Benjamin later talks about some of the elderly tenants who died during their stay and the things they taught him. Benjamin visits a brothel to fix that. At the brothel, a drunk Captain Mike rants about being a self-proclaimed artist and not a tugboat captain like his father, and then undresses to reveal his self-inked tattoos. He's a tattoo artist. He then harps on about his hummingbird tattoo and what a remarkable bird it is. Although Benjamin's appearance creeps the prostitutes out, one sympathetic prostitute reluctantly agrees to sleep with him. With the sexual vigor of a teenager, Benjamin wears the prostitute out and agrees to come visit her every day except Sunday. As he's leaving, we see Benjamin's father exiting the brothel and he intuitively recognizes Benjamin as his son. Benjamin's father, Thomas Button, offers to give Benjamin a ride home in his fancy, chauffeur-driven car. They stop at a bar for Benjamin's first drink. They drink and talk until the bar closes and then Tom drives Benjamin home. After Queenie chastises him for staying out late, Benjamin throws up from his first night of binge drinking. One day, Benjamin sneaks the 9-year-old Daisy out for a ride on Captain Mike's tugboat. Still drunk from the previous night's drinking, Captain Mike reluctantly agrees to take them out to sea. The tugboat passes a cruise ship and the captain waves to Benjamin and Daisy. Daisy remarks how she wishes she could be on a cruise ship like that. At about 17, Benjamin still looks like an older man but desires to leave home and work on Captain Mike's tugboat. Daisy is about 12 and makes Benjamin promise that he writes to her from wherever he travels to. While Benjamin travels from harbor to harbor on the tugboat, we watch Daisy grow up and train as a ballet dancer. During his travels, Benjamin befriends an unhappily married Englishwoman named Elizabeth at the hotel he lives in. They end up talking all night almost every night, and she tells Benjamin that she attempted to swim the English Channel when she was 19 but gave up before she could finish. She introduces Benjamin to the finer things in life like caviar and vodka, and she tells him about the places he's never seen like Asia. They eventually start an affair and spend every night together. Benjamin writes to Daisy and tells her that he's fallen in love. Then, one night, Elizabeth disappears, leaving only an impersonal note saying it was nice to have met him. Captain Mike announces to the crew that the Japanese have bombed Pearl Harbor and that he's contracted with the US Navy to support the war effort. The cook decides to leave the crew and be with his wife, so Benjamin steps in as cook. The tugboat gets its first taste of war when the crew shows up to the remains of a naval ship carrying soldiers that was just bombed. The tugboat soon catches the eye of the enemy submarine, and the crew springs into action, heroically deciding to collide with the submarine and sink it. Gunners on both the tiny tugboat and the submarine exchange fire, and ultimately, the tugboat maneuvers itself onto the submarine. Stayed in Paris and begins to weep. Although he was in love with Daisy, Benjamin reveals he slept with several women while in Paris. A few years later, Benjamin appears to be about 40 and Daisy, having recovered and able to walk again, visits Benjamin at Queenie's house. She asks him to sleep with her, and he promptly says yes. They visit the same lake Benjamin took his father to, and as they watch the sunrise, Daisy promises to never indulge in self-pity again. They end up traveling together and living on the sailboat Thomas Button left his son. When they return from their travels, Queenie's house is empty and the couple learn that Queen for his wife and child as he grows younger and younger. Daisy is adamantly optimistic and assures Benjamin that she can care for him and the baby, but Benjamin is not convinced. He tells her that she would be disappointed with such a life, and that the baby deserves a father and not a playmate. He tells Daisy that he still ticking backwards.